Meow. Oopus cat. I apologise if I get this wrong, but I believe Steve Foco sent me this. I may be wrong. I cannot remember for the life of me who sent it to me. And anyway, on April the 6th, 1917, which was over 101 years ago, the United States of America decided to join in with World War I. And by the October, the United States Department of Agriculture was busily putting out bulletins like this. Now, in the description there is a link to a site where you can literally scroll through hundreds of bulletins that were produced around about this time and afterwards that give you very, very specific information that's dated and doesn't reflect current technology and practices on various things, including pest management, crop disease management, irrigation, and even how to make yourself sustainable on a homestead. Really good information, and as ever with anything with PDF, if you find anything printed out. So one of these will also be going as prizes in my mega gore that very few people have entered, and they'll be closing very shortly, so you'll be getting a copy of this. So I'm just going to read you a little bit of it, and I'll put up some pictures because me reading like this is really kind of boring. This bulletin is designed to give an acre for acre comparison of the food value of different crops and animal products. It shows that corn on a given area will produce more human food than any other crop commonly grown on American farms. It shows that corn on a given area will produce more human food than any other crop commonly grown on American farms. This is based on 1917, not on 2018, of course. This crop heads the list in units of energy produced per acre and is ahead of all other crops, except, indeed, there are two other crops you should grow in preference to corn: navy beans and soya beans in tissue building material. Now, at this time in history, tofu was known, but wasn't widely known in the West at all, and the soybeans were used for human consumption and for cattle feed. So the ability to grow soybeans has always been interesting to me, and I have actually grown some and got a fairly decent sized crop out of it. So one of the things that we would consider doing in Grid Down is growing soybeans and actually processing it with a coagulant, which can be usually lemon juice, but you can use magnesium and calcium, which is important because for the long-term storage of those products to make tofu. So yeah, we would be planning to make tofu in Grid Down and grow corn and grow navy beans. In the latter element, soybeans far outclassed all other crops, showing nearly twice as much protein per acre as navy beans, which ranks second in this regard. So if you haven't grown soybeans, get some heirloom soybeans and give it a little go. They're not bad. It's basically the same as growing any bean. And you don't have to process it into tofu, though that's reasonably straightforward and I believe, we haven't done it yet. But soybeans is a good crop to be growing in Grid Down on a small area of land. So this bulletin is essentially using what you can grow out of 1 acre and saying to farmers and smallholders in America in 1917, we have a food shortage because of the World War. You guys grow as much food as you can, and this is how to do it. Now, I'm vegan, so I don't eat meat and dairy and fish. But there's good information in here for you guys who want to homestead on small areas about what's the most efficient animal to use for human protein. And that's kind of what they look at here. They're only looking at protein and calories, which again is a little bit of an issue. But balancing all things and a variety is what you need to be going for. But this is a good restricted farm area, what you could do. So again, reading from this. It shows that the dairy cow is the most efficient farm animals in the production of human food, brackets milk, and that the hog is the most efficient in the conversion of grain into meat, producing 5 times as much per acre of crops as does any other animal. The bulletin is not designed as a guide for planning farm operations. That is a matter to be determined by local, environment, equipment, and general conditions. Obviously, and knowing what soil type you're on, what your weather patterns are like, what the weather patterns can be like, how to irrigate it, how to protect from local pests and all that sort of stuff is vital, which is why I have a small garden in my suburban area is to give myself practice every year of growing different types of crops in small amounts. There is no way my small garden could feed me, let alone everybody would need to feed in Grid Down, and I hope I've made that clear. Uncle Al did tell me off about that, but I don't think I've ever claimed that that's going to feed me in Grid Down. Now, what do you actually get from this booklet? I do encourage you to download it from the PDF link I'm giving you, and also to look at the other sites there. It's pretty exciting stuff they've got. So it's going to tell you about the food value for corn, sweet potato, Irish potato, rye, wheat, rice, soybean, peanut, oats, navy beans, cowpeas, buckwheat, milk, cheese and butter, pork, and then some other animals. It's not hugely detailed. It does give you facts and figures. One thing I will warn you about the facts and figures is products have changed. We have interfered and spliced by nature and also by genetics most of our food crops. So the actual yields from things like corn and wheat are actually impressively higher now than they have been. Now, whether we can sustain that in Grid Down is another matter. So yeah, if you've got a small acreage and you want to grow food in Grid Down, you want to be growing soybeans, then you want to be growing navy beans, then you want to also be growing corn. If you have to have meat, you might want to have some pigs. Now, the interesting thing with this booklet, and I'll just read to you, the production of livestock products per acre was arrived at by assuming that the acre to be devoted to the crops suitable for feeding the kind of animal under consideration and in the proper proportion to give a balanced ration. In cases where this is not practical to do, this because of the necessity of using some feed not produced on the farm, it is assumed that a suitable portion of the acre product is exchanged for what else is needed, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, it's pretty obvious to me that meat's going to be an issue in Grid Down. Growing meat in large quantities to feed people how they eat meat for the year in Grid Down is going to be problematic for most of you in most areas. Meat will be a luxury item and an occasional item. Most of your farming will be vegetables and seeds and nuts, and that's probably the way to go. If you are meat and dairy dependent now, you'll probably be meat and dairy dependent in Grid Down. I would advise you to get a really good vegan cookbook and start doing some vegan meals, not because I'm a green hippie, but because it actually is tastier and healthier and going to be a lot easier in Grid Down than trying to provide pork chops for every meal. Which I think people know, but I still think the way that people are doing their food stocks doesn't reflect that reality. But that's an entirely different video on food complacency, which we will do later on. I just want to give you guys some information on this. So overall, one of the damning things in this is oats. Because of the relatively small amount of both protein and energy in oats, it is not believed advisable to increase greatly the acreage devoted to this crop, especially where the land can be devoted to other crops in the list given in Table 1. Brackets except cowpeas. Good old cowpeas. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't. The reason being that oats is a really, really convenient product in Grid Down. Right? You don't really have to mill it too much, and you can produce nice porridge with water and all of that. Now, cowpeas is kind of an interesting one. Although the cowpea crop is unimportant in the present connection, the fact that its seeds are highly palatable to most people and represent an important source of protein, as well as a further fact that it's widely grown in our southern states as a catch crop in corn or after winter grain, justifies reference to it here. The South devotes its energies so largely to the production of one great money crop, cotton, that any readily available source of human food should not be overlooked in this section. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The reason I find that interesting is because it's going to be very local what you can grow, and I really don't know what cowpeas are. Are they black-eyed peas? I really don't know. But rotational of crops is going to be very key to maintaining soil health. Also using human manure is also going to be very key. Having large compost piles is going to be very key. Having wormiculture to get the soil broken down. All of those things is going to be great. We live in a society where we see things as in the short term. For long term small acreage or even smaller than 1 acre farming, in grid down, you really have to treat the soil as a living organism and make sure the soil gets fed before you do. Otherwise the soil may not be able to feed you. So that's kind of one of the things. You really have to be connected to whatever acres you're doing. And I think that's all I want to talk about here. I'll try and show you guys this. Like I say, do go to the PDF file section that I'm giving. One is to this, and the other one is to a generalized page, just full and full and full of leaflets like this. Anyway, have a great day. That's all from Hoople's Cat for now. Like I say, I will be doing the food complacency video in the near future. That's going to be really, really long and controversial, but it will represent what I feel about the topic, which is what I always do in my videos. Anyway, peace of sea, au revoir, have a great day.